All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. We love to go deep and get into the weeds here. And, well, today we've got a really, really interesting situation brewing over at the DNC.
Yeah, definitely interesting.
They're already thinking about 2026, midterms, always right around the corner.
Oh, it seems like we just finished the last one.
I know, right? But they've made some leadership changes, some new appointments, and let's just say it's causing a bit of a stir. So we've got this news article here, and it's all about Roger Lau, the DNC's brand new executive director. And, well, some folks aren't exactly thrilled.
Right. Well, before we get into all that, maybe it's good to take a step back, for people who might not be super familiar with all the inner workings of a political party. What does an executive director even do? What's this role all about?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's easy to hear these titles and not really grasp the weight they carry.
Exactly. I mean, this isn't just some figurehead position. We're talking about you could say, the COO of a political party. I mean, this is the person who takes the DNC's vision, their goals, their whole strategy, and makes it a reality. Day-to-day operations, fundraising, the whole 9 yards, getting those campaigns coordinated all across the country, that all falls under the executive director.
So yeah, Lau's definitely in a spot to make some waves. And, this article, it really dives into his background, his history, what they call his far left ideologies.
Okay, interesting.
And they talk about his work with Elizabeth Warren, which makes sense given her, her place on the political spectrum. But then they get into this letter that Lau signed back in 2020. And, it claims that the U.S. is built on racism and genocide. Pretty strong words, right?
Yeah, no, that was definitely a statement that got people talking. It was signed by over 100 AAPI leaders right in the middle of the Black Lives Matter protests.
Right, 2020, a lot going on.
Absolutely. The country was grappling with police brutality, systemic racism, you name it. And this letter was part of I guess you could say a movement, a push for major social justice changes. It specifically backed this 10-point plan aimed at police violence and racial justice. Things like creating a commission to look into structural racism, declaring racism a public health crisis. Big, bold ideas.
Okay, so that's the context. But this article, they go a step further. They're claiming that Lau was the mastermind behind sneaking, hidden BLM messages into one of Warren's DNC speeches. And they even reference an ABC News report from back then. And that's what I thought was really interesting, maybe even risky. Could this kind of thing backfire on him, on the DNC, or do you think it's seen as, a smart way to tap into a powerful movement? What do you make of that?
Well, it definitely raises questions about how campaigns craft their messages, right? How they try to connect with different groups. I mean, every single word, every phrase, it's all carefully chosen to tell a certain story, to resonate with specific audiences. Were these messages intentionally hidden? I don't know, maybe that's up for debate. But what it does show us is how much strategy, how much calculation goes into political communication. It'll be fascinating to see if Lau takes a similar approach now that he's in this new position.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of messaging, there's this other thing the article brings up, a video of Lau on Boston Mayor Michelle Wu's YouTube channel. He's talking about white supremacy culture.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. See, that ties into this bigger conversation that's happening right now about identity politics, its role in politics and our national dialogue. More and more, we're seeing politicians framing things through this lens of identity, appealing to specific groups based on race, ethnicity, gender, all sorts of characteristics. And it's tricky, right? Because some people see it as divisive, while others see it as absolutely crucial to address historical wrongs, to make sure everyone's represented. It really depends on your perspective.
Right. And it definitely gets complicated. Okay, this next part, this really threw me for a loop. The article says that Lau was actually opposed a resolution, the kind they vote on, that was condemning the Chinese Communist Party for misleading the world about, where COVID came from, how it spread. That just seemed like a pretty big stance to take, especially now with all the tension between the U.S. and China.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It does make you wonder how the DNC, with Lau leading it, will handle this whole U.S.-China situation, which is only getting more complex. I mean, him being against that resolution, it suggests he might have a different way of looking at things than those who want to be more, confrontational, especially when it comes to human rights, economic competition, all those issues. It'll be really important to see how this stance of his plays out, how it affects foreign policy, and of course, how voters feel about it, especially those who are, let's say, a little uneasy about China's growing global influence.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about for sure. And then to add another wrinkle to all of this, The article mentions that Lau was the deputy executive director back during the 2024 election when, President Trump beat Kamala Harris. And he's been in that role since 2021.
Yeah.
So he's not exactly new to the DNC.
Right. No, not at all. I mean, that experience, it's got to be incredibly valuable. He's seen firsthand what the DNC is up against, the challenges, but also the opportunities. And after witnessing a presidential loss, well, he knows how high the stakes are. He understands the need for a winning strategy, that's for sure. All that past experience, the good and the bad, it's all going to shape how he approaches this job now that he's in charge.
Absolutely. And to round things out, the article points out some of the pushback, the criticisms that have been popping up about the DNC's new leadership team. They specifically call out David Hogg and how, conservatives on social media are reacting.
Yeah, well, that really highlights how tough it is to lead a party like the Democrats. I mean, it's such a diverse group with so many different viewpoints, different priorities. Trying to keep everyone happy, it's a balancing act for sure. Any leadership choice is going to make some people unhappy.
Yeah.
The DNC, they're trying to appeal to a wide range of voters while also, firing up their base. And you can see that tension playing out in the reactions to these appointments.
All right, so let's try to make sense of all this. We've got Roger Lau, the new executive director at the DNC. And his connections, they're definitely creating a lot of buzz, getting reactions from all sides.
Right, exactly. And it really makes you wonder, what does this tell us about where the Democratic Party is headed? Are they moving further to the left? Or is this just more of the same, just continuing down the same path? And maybe even more importantly, how will all of this affect the midterms in 2026? And, what about the bigger picture, the political landscape as a whole? Lots to think about, lots to watch.
Absolutely. Well, folks, there you have it. Another deep dive complete. Thanks for joining us. And as always, keep those brains buzzing, keep asking those tough questions, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.